Hi guys, sales training today is trying to deal with the asked for question about lending. Where to lend, what to lend, how to lend. It obviously correlates with the message on franchises that was done at the same time as this with the new national lender. So let me try to touch base as best I can. Your first goal, your first rule, your first stand should always be, number one, we're an independent construction consultant, period. Name not on loan, payment due up front. Oh, and most importantly, no liability. That's your number one goal. That should be your basic. Introduce it to a lender, send over the you-build-it contract, send over the budget. Your package should be so phenomenal that they love you. Their equity's phenomenal. The reporting they're going to get is better than anyone else ever provides. Your budget is more detailed than anyone they've ever seen. The details of the extras in the home is better than they've ever seen. The floor plans are fantastic. It is all extremely clear. Should be super easy, wonderful, clean, not a problem to get the deal. Okay? First compromise most of us often make is this is usually split. It's very common to split. I used to do 50% at close, loan close, start a project, however you want to call it. 25% at frame, which, well, it probably should be the completion of frame. I always did it start of frame, i.e. when slab is poured. And then I always did 20% at drywall and 5% at paint. I am changing that. When we get our new manual done, we are going to 50% at start, 25% end stage 1, which by the way is also slab, and 25% end stage 2, which is completion of rough ends or start of insulation if you prefer. I'm even very tempted to change and add that to my contract just because I have to do it on 90% of all jobs. And a little side note, when you get that client that tries to steal from you, tries to cheat you, goes through pain and then says not going to build, and all of a sudden you find out they're building, believe it or not, because you can't really get your whole fee legally, this makes it much clearer that you can at least get half and usually a little bit of liquidated damages on the others because you pre-structured out and helped explain, because many states, the courts look at you and say, you can't say your whole fee. If that was true, why are you doing any work after? And you're like, well, blah, blah, it's not fair. And you're right. It's not fair. It's not moral. It's not ethical. Don't understand the laws. But somewhere a politician wanted to get elected, and guess what? You're not of the subclass that elects them. It's the serfs of the world that do the electing, and that's what the laws are for. And be glad, because we all have been serfs or will be serfs again someday. So you hate it now. No, it's probably not fair, but it is what it is. So as long as you can accounting-wise show what your actual losses were and expectations, you can come out, and that, believe it or not, helps. So I'm thinking of changing that, and I strongly encourage y'all to consider the same. So that is compromise number 1. Here's the problem. I'm going to leave that. There's not really a good compromise number 2. You get a client that can't qualify. I guess compromise number 2 gets into down payment. And by the way, I'm being very real here. That's what it should be. You want to say, this is my religion, this is what I do, and if I can't do that on this wall, I will stand there. God bless you. I love you. Appreciate it. Been the same way, done the same. Do it. I am not teaching this to say where you should have your moral line. I'm teaching to say if this is your line, great. But if this is your line, here's what I do. And if this is your line, this is what I do. Because while I believe get all, I also believe, better to get slapped and get the kiss sometimes. So than to get no kiss at all. Leave it alone there. So number 2 is often down payment. Hey, what do you do? What do you do or fee? What do you do when a client has to have 10% quote unquote skin in the game and actually has 0? They don't own the land. They don't have any cash. What little cash they have, they gave to you and the designer to get up and going. They're normal Americans. By the way, how could that be? You do realize the statistics have been done to death that I honestly think it's 90, but I'm going to go with the safe one that I know for a fact. 75% of all Americans cannot come up with $2,000. 75%, and I actually believe it is higher than 90%. 75% of all Americans cannot come up with $2,000. If they had a hospital emergency and they were going to die or get $2,000, they would have to die. People are that tight on cash. Now you can say, I don't care about them, I only make my living off the top 25%, which by the way, I think is actually the top 8%. I don't even care, I make my living off the top 8%. Good for you. Again, if this is your line, live there. If it's not and you're trying to sell to everyone and serve everyone, and I don't mean that judgmentally, I sounded that way and I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but we've got this run. So what do? You have option 1, nothing. You have option 2, you put it up. I've done it so many times I can't count. You go to the bank and you say, what's the loan amount? $280,000. Here's a $28,000 check. Put the money in the CD and hold it for me. And at the end of the loan, you get the money back. I have a client right now that I did it for. And guess what? They ran out of money and couldn't finish the house. Bank had to take my CD and use it to finish the house. But before they did, because it was structured in a CD, I was able to get the client to sign a form giving me second lien position on the home. So I have the option of buying out the first mortgage and owning the house and reselling it, which has $150,000 equity. It crossed my mind. Or knowing that I get paid at close, which is when the CD would have released anyway, so I'm perfectly fine. I also, by the way, charge them a $2,000 penalty for doing so. I strongly encourage you, if you ever put money up, charge a penalty for doing so. Your money costs you money. You put up $28,000 for the time it takes to get through the process, get closed on a loan, build the house, get through the loan process, get closed on a loan. You are talking a year. So you better make sure you get yourself at least 10%. But if you're putting up the cash, it's almost always an easy thing to do. Keep in mind, you will still get your fee during construction. This is irrelevant from that. Quite often, what it equates to is the fee equals down payment, or the bank just doesn't want to pay it till the end. You got to make the decision. I had one today that the client could get a loan, but the only bank that would do their loan, because they're a quirky job, it's funds the way they're going to fund, and they fund the way they fund, and that's how they fund, period. And they're going to fund once a month, and they're going to fund based on percentages broken into 18 different ratings. The maximum they give is like 3% for part of the lumber package. It's insane. But there'll be big chunks based on the month. So, or they could go and buy the land now, wait 3 months to get some stuff cleaned up, and then they could close with one of my lenders and we'd be good to go. We all know time kills all deals. So I had to look at the thing and say, no, Pay me out in stages. I will take it at a lesser amount. I will take $6,000 my fee here. I will take $10,000 here, and I will take the other $10,000 here. But if you're ever late on a single payment, it's a 10% penalty, each one, and for full amount. And if it's not paid in full within 6 months, 10% penalty for the full amount, all $2,600. Which is just an encouragement to get her there and get her done. And when you have that one that 3% was going to be done tomorrow, which is next month, or today, which is this month, get it in this month because you need the money to pay me. So you figure out what can you do? What do you have to do? How can you get there? Can you float a credit card? It's $28,000. You go, that's great, Bob. That's real neat. You got 28 grand. I don't have 28 grand. Guys, trust me, for the first 8 years, I didn't either. So, well, then how'd you get the 28 grand? Well, if it's 28,000 and my fee's 28,000, and by the way, as a rule, if I'm putting up the money, it's a plus. There's no way in heck I'm funding you and it's a straight up deal. I'm gonna have a lot more say, and I'm hopefully even gonna touch the checkbook for you. There's coverage to do there. But if I'm putting up the money, that fee is going to be equal to that. So the day we close, I'm getting half. So it's not 28 now, it's 14. So what I've really got to do is find a way to float 14 grand. And usually I would float a credit card here and float a credit card there and take the hit. And again, that's why I charge a little bit of interest and how we flow through those things. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to try to speed up. I know I'm getting lost, but I want to cover detail. And yes, I know it's confusing, but to recap, you got straight, you build it, that's beautiful. But you got the guy that doesn't have the cash, or they can't get there, there's a problem with the fee. You have to decide, can you, will you cover, and try to pick up. Rule of thumb, I say do. That usually catches majority of my people. However, when somebody falls into that, and I'm having to do the above and beyond, I will usually, A, move them to a plus contract. Plus contract, as a rule of thumb, is 3% more, okay? B, I will, if I can do it, charge them a bookkeeping fee. And we, through one service or another, will handle the paying of their bills. They will not, it will be us, it will be assigned to us, we'll write the checks, we'll file the draws, we'll do all that. For that, I tend to charge 1%. If I picked up those, I usually do this as a courtesy. If, however, I'm not picking up those and I'm doing that as a courtesy, I usually have a minimum of a 10, sometimes as high as a 20% fee for borrowing my money, because that is not my responsibility. You may get a client that's like, well, then no. And then you get in a booger bear situation. So make positive that you do, in all cases, get your lien position extremely clear. I'm not saying you have to go file it, but make sure you have the right to file it like that. By the way, this, in my opinion, when your money is that much at risk, is the best way to go. It makes a cleaner project, it makes the project go faster, getting you your money back quicker, and you make sure that the budget is watched and tracked and kept online. It has value. Yes, there are people you should sell this to because it's what's right for them, totally irrelevant. That's a story for another day. Today is about getting loans. This will close about 20% more loans if you're normal than you can do up here. Now, what about that client, or what about that bank, or hey, what if, Bob, I'm a brand new franchisee? And I get it. I get we're better. I get bank service. I get all the stuff you say, but guess what? It doesn't work here. You know, your power bait might be fantastic for catching trout in Missouri, but it ain't catching diddly squat on the lower fork down here in southeast Oklahoma. So what else you got? Guys, there is the classic GC builder of record. We're going to send you copies. You can use them, you can look at them, you can throw away, you can delete it, that's up to you. But we're going to send you, number one, just for record, a standard you build it contract. Number 3, a builder of record contract. And number 2, this nifty little form, which is a builder of record disclaimer. Okay? Builder of record is, I understand you, the lender, have got boxes you have to check. Here's the deal. Here's where you run into this. This is where this has a place. And it's the most common problem I run into. It's the most common problem you run into as well. It is the bank that I am in this because it's an easy job. I'm paid extremely well. I went to school and got a degree. I worked cheap for a number of years, and I got a loan officer's job. And guess what I don't want to do? I don't want to think, and I don't want to put in effort. I am never going to make a loan that ever could go bad. I never want to see another loan again because that means guys can make fun of me, and I don't want to ever be made fun of. I want to be a pretty, pretty princess, and I want it to be easy and wonderful and happy and rich and fun. And if you don't think that's who bankers are, I love you, you're an idiot. It's who they are. They're pretty, pretty princesses, period. Doesn't matter if you don't like pretty, pretty princesses. Doesn't matter if you don't think it's fair. Doesn't matter if you don't think they should exist. They have the money. You want the money. That's it. Quit being upset that they're not smart, they're not competent, they're not paying attention. And if you have one that, hey, Bob, you can't see that, my guy's great. I don't want to hear about it. I'm glad that you have the one perfect mate. Okay? Don't call my wife and tell her how great your husband is because she didn't get the perfect husband. So accept it. But rule of thumb, guys, let the stereotype hold and go ahead and swallow it because you need to drink the Kool-Aid and realize you got to deal with the pretty, pretty princess. Okay? Reality, that's all there is to it. That's who you're playing with. That's who you're dancing with. Understand that. Understand you are never going to be their equal. They don't care. They pout their foot and they don't care. You know why? They don't have to. You know why? Because they have the money. And yes, they want to loan it. And yes, they want to make the interest. And yes, that's how they do it. But you know what your job is? Think about it. Think of who this is. You are. I want to loan, I want to make the interest, I'm just killing people, I'm cheating on me, I'm making so much money. But if I wasn't able to do a loan, oh no, what's my consolation prize? I go over here and sit on a huge pile of money that's mine. It's not a bad consolation prize. A lot of people enjoy it. So you're never going to win. Now, these little people that never expanded their minds, never learned a lot, went and took a class in college, it was totally meaningless. You know what they learned? They learned box, 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 box. Check, 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 check. No check, no loan. Period. And to try to say, but you don't understand, on a scale of 1 to 10, to mark this as a 2, and what I'm offering you is a 10 plus, 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 they don't care. Don't make the pretty, pretty princess's head hurt. Or she just won't even talk to you anymore and she'll go have her tea party with somebody else. Those people need a check. You know what they have to have a check? Who's the builder? But there's got to be a builder. Yeah, but you understand where you build it. But, oh, great, yeah, I want to do those loans. That's going to be awesome. But I got to mark this box. When you run into those people, this is the answer. We will sign on. We're a builder of record. So I am going to hand you, Mr. Banker, a general contractor builder of record contract. And you're going to do the loan in Bobby the Builder name. And when we close on the loan, you're going to fund me. And I'm immediately going to take that check and I'm going to write a check to You Build It for their fee, and I'm going to write the rest of it to the client. And the client's job is to pay everybody else because it's a You Build It job. And when I've collected all my fees, then that money goes straight from me to them, straight from me to them, straight from me to them. If, by the way, you prefer to do a bookkeeping thing, you can sign a 1% or 0.5% is honestly quite fair bookkeeping fee. And then they write the check to you, and that builder of record contract can just serve as the same company doing the bookkeeping, and you can pay their bills for them. It's a nice service to provide a client. 0.5% honestly is cheap for somebody to do your budget and to track it for you. 1% is very fair, and 0.5% is very, very fair. So consider adding that to and doing it. It's a service for the bank, the client, you, everyone comes out in pretty good shape. But you have them sign a disclaimer. And the disclaimer says, we are not committing bank fraud. We are confirming and stating up front, very specifically and very clearly, this client is a you-build-it job. To mark a check on a checklist, we're doing a builder of record GC contract. But the client understands and the bank understands this is how the money's going to flow and this is how it's going to work, and we have zero liability. Now, if you do these, you may want to consider bookkeeping services. If I misspelled bookkeeping, don't bother to call. I really don't care how to spell it. For 0.5% all the way up to 1%. If you want to charge more, charge more. I just have always felt those are fair. And you may very much want to consider adding a warranty. Now, there's a few of you going to say, holy cow, Bob, that sounds like a better deal across the board anyway. I mean, we get to touch cash, our fees guaranteed. How clean and wonderful and perfect and beautiful is that? It is. But it definitely, even with this, and by the way, this is a pretty strong bullet. I mean, you got powerful, powerful armor. Okay? You're a Tiger tank going up against a Sherman. You're in a heck of a lot better shape. You're heavily armored. But it does have some liability. Now, by the way, and this is where a lot of people get confused, this gets into the world of stacking up LLCs. Because you should have a XYZ DBA, why am I wanting it to be a W? We'll build it, you build it, designator, company. That is LLC the first. Then you should have a general contractor LLC. Bobby builds, Kansas Best Construction, Jimmy Crack Corn likes a house, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Braudrick Construction, Timber Ridge Custom Homes, Kirby, whatever you like. Name it after your favorite dog. But you should have a general contracting. Then you should have a general contracting, general contractor builder of record LLC company. Because keep in mind, as a rule, this company holds no assets. Okay? Even if you are doing bookkeeping, that money belongs to a specific job and a specific client. Another client cannot come and seize those funds. They are specific related to another property. Even if a lawsuit is filed against you and you lost, they cannot come and claim those funds. This is a non-profit making entity. It produces nothing but this. It makes zero profit. It has zero assets. It has zero overhead. It can always go bankrupt. Piercing the corporate veil can be done, but it is not easy. So if you did such a loan and you had that crazy client that, you know, like I always say, nobody ever got married and walked up to the altar with somebody saying, I hate you, you're the most evil person that ever lived. But a large number of people have their divorce end that way. So they all love you at the start. You get that crazy one that goes insane, that is going to push. And they get a lawyer that goes, I don't care what they say. It says builder, he's a builder. I'm going at him. Worst comes to worst, bankrupt the company, start a new one. LLCs are easy. Let that and die. Get what you have finished, get some things transferred over, sign some transfer forms with clients for the new ones so the funding starts going there. It's a pretty cakewalk, easy thing to do. So you have it. I've never had to do that. I've never had a franchise that had to do it. I've never gotten there, but I will tell you, I know of 3 specific events where it came up and it could have been. And when you looked at them and said, well, Mr. Lawyer, you can walk away and not be an idiot. You can admit what it is, or we can just shut this one down and you've spent all that money doing nothing and they backed up every time. The ability that you had that kind of armor was a huge protection. The ability you had that level of protection and strength was huge. So this is a great way to go. Look at the forms and consider it. It will help you with getting loans. There is another. Last but not least, you get a client. And this comes into, Bob, why do I need a general contracting company? If I've got the builder of record, if I've got you build it, why do I need the other? Because A, there will be states where they say, no, builder of record, not good enough. Doesn't fit state law, or you just haven't established enough reputation. You're not bringing enough cream to the table that they're going to listen to you. They're going to say, well, do this or we won't, period. Well, that you get to and you can say, I won't cross that line. But if I got to feed my family, so I'm willing to cross that line, you sign it. You sign them to a GC. You void your you build it contract and you sign a GC contract and you take it on. And guess what happens? It costs the client more. My general liability, which now kicks in, becomes a line item on the budget. By the way, I cannot stress this enough. If you look at a client on tile and you act like it's a problem and it's a big deal that there's a line item for tile on there and oh my gosh, I hope you don't freak out and just, this is how, guess what they're going to do? They're going to freak out. As the great song goes from the wonderful show, What was it, Just Fine? It doesn't matter, Nickelodeon. They're going to freak out. It's a fun little song, by the way. Feel free to look it up. Victoria Justice. It's very cute. But if you don't, if it's just here's tile and here's what's in the budget, they're the same thing. It's just an assumed close, the ultimate cleanest, purest. If you act like general liability is a line item on the budget, it's a real big thing, and we don't normally do this, they're going to freak out. But if you just have 3% general liability insurance, what's the most that happens? They go, what's that? That's general liability insurance. It provides a 10-year warranty on the property and takes care of covering everything. If anybody walks on, gets hurt, sues, whatever stupid reason, something happens, even if it stresses beyond workers' comp, that's your insurance. That's what covers it. Builder's risk is your homeowners. That's if it gets vandalized, burns in a fire, hit by a tornado. But this is all the liability. And it also gives you the 2-year TIM warranty. Okay, thanks. That's a neat value. You just add that line item to it. Okay? Period. Very first thing that happens as a rule, and it's got to be up to you. Because, rule of thumb, your you build it contract was 6%. That's perfect. Well, if I got to do a true GC, I usually do the management. I tend to charge 3%. And bookkeeping, I tend to charge 1% because I've added that service to it. What does that come into? 10. Likewise, I add a 3% line item for general liability. Now, what I hate about this is my client goes from that magic goal of saving 20% to that exact same number is now 13%. I hate that. But never forget, they're doing a whole lot less work. You're doing a lot more. They're getting a really cool warranty, I guess. And 13% is still a crap load better than anybody else is doing. You're like, Bob, I don't save 20. I only saved the client 13% in the first place. Well, the contract they're going to sign with somebody else is exactly the same as yours. The service they're going to provide is not as good as what you're going to provide because they don't have the planning that you're still going to walk up to. They don't understand the level of disclosure, and they don't get you. It is still a billion times better. Not to mention, guess what? If you only save them 6%, how many builders build a house and go, man, I came in under, here's 18 grand? None. Still significant, still huge, still the best deal they're ever going to get in their life. And as you build up your reputation and grow, you can start finding clients or banks that start accepting. And then you start finding banks that accept and banks that accept. And you go and you go and you do. Now, that is when you have a bank. When else do you need a GC? once in a blue moon, you're going to get a client that just wants it. Rule of thumb, better you do a plus and better do a bookkeeping service than you do the GC, because it's a lot better protection and the warranty actually is crap and doesn't cover anything. But y'all know how it is. It's insurance. It gives somebody to sue somebody, but nobody ever ends up getting paid and everybody hates everyone. So it's better just do it right in the first place and do it, you build it, because it's unnecessary. And if they want it, go buy a homeowner warranty for 1%, which is a heck of a lot cheaper, that covers the exact same nothing. That's a discussion for another day. Again, though, if you have questions on that, holler. So, when is the last place someone needed GC? Who is the client in lending? Because, Bob, I'm sick of losing deals. Because, guys, listen to me. I'm as good as anyone in this world, but I still lose 10% of my clients to lending issues on a semi-regular, well, maybe 5%. But that's more than I want to stink and lose. And I know there's a lot of you out there losing even more. So who's the next one that's going to be a GC? I had a client in the last 30 days. I've signed 2. Client number 1 had a 580 credit score. But believe it or not, thanks to the magic of FHA, qualified for $271,000 on the perm. I would never get them high enough to be able to get a construction loan. But our cost to build was expected to only be $230,000. So my fee went up $41,000 to cover insurance, warranty, labor, etc. And then I had to take that down to about $31,000 because I had to sneak back in closing costs because I forgot about that. And I made more money, and instead of walking a deal, I took a deal that my total fee was about $50,000 on a $270,000 job, and the client's ecstatic and thrilled to death, and they could have never gotten the home they wanted on the land they wanted to put it on, and now they could. And so, boom, there we go. By the way, yes, they own the land. I didn't do this with zero cash down. I'm not a complete moron, because otherwise I'd basically just be building a spec. The house is worth, I think, $310,000. So if they don't qualify or they goof backwards somewhere, it's in my name anyway. I just clean it up, change a few paint colors to what I would have put in the home, and I resell it and make even more, and still got all my fees during the construction stage. So you tell me, was it better to hold at the original over here 1 and no, we don't do that? Or do I make 20% profit and give somebody something they could never have any other way? And if it goes bad, you know, worst case scenario, I don't make another $100,000 for 6 months to a year. You take the deal. Those come up. They go. Okay. Number 2, we had short technical difficulties, and I'm being told that I was rambling. So I apologize for those of y'all that gave up and fell asleep. I am so sorry. I will try to talk faster in the future. And I know there's probably better ways to structure. I try to feel through these so it's more storyline based. Some of you get it, some of you hate it. I love those of you that follow. My second client named Drummond. Short job time. We had about a 640 credit score, so we'll obviously going to qualify for the permanent type for the construction loan, but we hadn't been on the job long enough. By the time I finished the house, we would have been on the job long enough by 6 months. So option 1 was wait. Wait basically 6 months and then start. Ugh, I hate time. Time kills deals. Option 2 was GC, and the client was open to it. Now, I will tell you, they owned their land. 20 acres, worth about $50,000 plus all day long. I was at a 75% LTV. My fee was going to be $20,000. As a GC, the 3% insurance was added, irrelevant to my fee, but my fee went from 20 to 30. Nowhere near the massive profit of the other, but you tell me. By the way, never mention this, just a line item on the budget. It's just part of life. Nobody questions, nobody problem. Woohoo, how cool, we get a warranty, good to go. And by the way, the GC jobs tend to fly because guess what? I don't have to ask. It's framer, it's going to be the framer I tell to go. It's not advisor. I don't mean to be rude or anything, but they go quicker. And I get paid when it's done. So I tend to get these built in 4 to 6 months versus 8 to 9 with the traditional you build it. But I can do it full time, not part time as well. I also find this a lot easier to control budget because when the client wants to make a change, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I go, great, man, no problem. I'm like, well, why's your hand like that? Because I ain't doing it until you give me the money first. We don't get paid after. You need to pay for the change up front. Guess how often they no longer want to make a change? Wish we could do that more steadily in some of the others. So, what would you have done? You may have walked away. You may have been, I only do true, you build it. That is the line on which I stand and die. God bless you. I agree with you. Absolutely. I took the extra profit and closed the deal now because I didn't want to risk it in 6 months. Things happen. Now, you're going to have a question for me. Bob, what do you do if they go bad? What do you do if he loses that job? What do you do if that 580 credit score drops to a 550? I mean, we're not dealing with the highest end clientele historically, or they wouldn't be in these situations. Well, you have 2 options. Option number 1 is you foreclose, you take it over and you resell it. I never go there. I always make that plan B. Option number 2 is you take out the home in your name and you sell it to the client on a lease purchase. I usually charge a minor fee up front. All closing costs, everything else going on doing so. And whatever interest rate I have, I go up anywhere from 1% to 2% more. And that's how I figure their payment. So I make a little bit on the monthly. And we're very clear on the lease purchase that if you're late once, you get a notice. If you're late twice, it's a fine. And if you're ever more than 30 days late, which by the way, that would be, it's due June 1st and it's July 1st, you're now 30. We're not truly more than until we're at 60, which is August 1st. So it's August 1st, you haven't made the June payment. It's a matter of going down to the courthouse and filing the paperwork. There's no debate, there's no argument, there's no struggle. You are foreclosed on, you are moved out. And yes, it will take a couple months to get them legally packed and moved and sent away. But I have a judgment against them for the remainder of that lease, for the losses accrued and the legal costs, and now I have the house to resell. You can say, wouldn't you have been safer just taking it over and reselling it? Yes, but I feel more ethical the other way. Likewise, on the lease purchase, if they have made the payment for 2 years, I don't care how bad their credit is, getting them financed and taking you out is easy. If they made it for 6 months, rule of thumb, it's pretty easy. And now their name's on title and it's just a refi, and that's a whole different beast. You have to make it more complicated. You're not renting it to them. You have to do it on a lease purchase. You have to put their name on the title. And yes, it makes it a little harder for you. And yes, there's a little more legal stuff. Again, that's why I charge a little more to do it. But it makes the refi for them a cakewalk, or relatively speaking, a cakewalk. So that's how I do it. And that's why I do it. Because I know what my exit's going to be. I know what my jump out's going to be. And that's what my pass's going to be. So why do you have a You Build It company? Duh. Why do you have a GC company? Hopefully that's obvious. It's to get loans when there's no other way to get loans. Why do you have to be creative on finance and sometimes do a project management or You Build It Plus? Because sometimes it fits best. And you need to know those different aspects. You need to remember, you need to offer a bookkeeping service. You need to offer a plus service. Sometimes it's for the benefit of the client. Sometimes for the benefit of you. Of all the pluses I do, if I'm being perfectly frank, maybe 20-25% of them are for the benefit of the client. They really wanted it, needed it. It was service that fit them best. 70-75% of them are because that's the only way I'll do what I have to do to help them out. And I've got to find some way that I make more money. And if I've got risk in the game, then I'm going to know a whole lot more what's going on in the game, and I know a whole lot more when it's a plus. So 75% of the time, it's because I said you're doing it. I hope you made it through this. I hope I didn't waste your time. I hope I didn't confuse. I hope I wasn't too negative. There's a lot of people that think, well, that's evil, that's wrong. You provide a service, and you provide a service that couldn't exist anywhere else. If you're ever taking advantage of somebody, if you're ever cheating somebody, if you ever go to bed at night feeling guilty, if you're ever saying prayers and you have a sense of conscience, then you're wrong. You need to back up, you need to lower fees, you need to adjust, you need to go. But as long as you're providing a service that truly there's no other way it could get, and that is how you get them, that is how you meet, and that is how you do it, then in my opinion, you've done a righteous and holy thing and good for you, and there's phenomenal you've done your work and sold your job and found a way to assist and help. That's the moral standard I have. If yours differs, feel free to share. Maybe I need to hear it. Maybe you're how that voice is going to come and let me know, and I appreciate it. But on the whole, you're trying to find a way to help people get their dream, and you're trying to find the best way and the way to do so. These are the options I know. The builder of record contract is quite often the best, especially when you're new or struggling or whatever. National lenders, when they exist, often are a huge help, and I know they help give you some leverage on other ends as well. Guys, if you have questions and you're going to and follow-ups on this, call me, email me, text me, call Mary Ann, call Kelly. Let us know what we can do to help. I grant you on some of the more creative stuff, I'm usually the best source to go to. If you're struggling on an individual deal and you're like, I don't know what to do, I need somebody to help bounce and come up with new ideas, I'm pretty decent at this. Call me. I'm so happy to visit with you and roll through it. If you didn't make it to the end of this, well, you're probably wiser than those of us that did. Guys, God bless you. Have a great day.